All right, let's move on to some other issues. We'll come back to it though, sadly. This Victorian issue is not going away. But let's talk about Saturday's Eden-Monaro by-election. Now, the results yet to be declared. The counting continues. Nonetheless, it looks like a likely, very narrow Labor win. And despite the party's poor showing with an almost 4% primary swing against them over the weekend, it hasn't stopped Labor leader Anthony Albanese claiming it as an extraordinary Labor victory.
This is the day when Kristy McBain's life will really change. It'll change for the better, and she'll change Australia for the better. I congratulate Kristy McBain on a fantastic victory in Eden-Monaro.
Joining me now to analyse this and more, the Australian's political editor, Dennis Shanahan in Canberra. Well, we're yet to get an official concession from the Liberal candidate Fiona Cotvoyes, but it does look like Labor's over the line here. I have to say, Dennis, looking at the latest numbers on the AEC website tonight, it's hardly an endorsement of Labor if you look at that primary vote and if you look at the history of by-elections going so heavily against the government. What's your take out here for both leaders?
Well, I think there's probably a bit of gamesmanship on both sides here. For a start, Scott Morrison isn't going to concede the by-election. He's going to let the idea that it is so close, and it is so close, but he's not about to hand Anthony Albanese an easy victory. It's going to be something that he's going to bleed out over a number of days to try and damage that impact of a win. Anthony Albanese, on the other hand, is spinning like a top on these results. There is no doubt that on these results, Anthony Albanese's Labor Party has suffered a big fall in primary vote. It's been saved by preferences from the Shooters Party and probably from some of the National Party, so that the Labor Party continues to bleed traditional voters. It's losing its base support, and this has continued at Eden-Monaro. So Anthony Albanese is going to be under enormous pressure. He's saying he's had a win, but as Joel Fitzgibbon says, it was an ugly win, and an ugly win will not satisfy the critics within the Labor Party. And there won't be an immediate move against Anthony Albanese, obviously. Even if he'd lost, that wasn't going to be the case. But his critics have been emboldened further, and they're going to demand changes for Labor's direction. For Scott Morrison, it's business as usual. No one really expected he could win it, except on a very off chance. But for him, it's just part of the business going on, and has demonstrated the swings in places like Queanbeyan have demonstrated that the public approves of Scott Morrison's handling of the COVID-19 crisis. Yes, he was punished for his mistakes in the bushfires over summer, particularly around Cobargo and Eden-Monaro. But I think overall this is reasonable news for Scott Morrison, and it's not good news for Anthony Albanese.
Yeah, and I was interested actually watching some of those booths around Cobargo come in on Saturday night. They were coming in in the Liberal Party's favour, even after the PM having such a difficult time there months ago. So I do think there had been a shift, and there was certainly a good pickup of the blue-collar vote. I've got John Barilaro on the show in just a moment, and I'm interested in your assessment there just quickly on the National Party, because the Shooters, you're right, they picked up nearly 6,000 votes, 4.5% swing to them. They weren't figuring in the numbers last time round, so that's a positive, full vote swing. The National Party down 0.5%. On about 5,000 votes, 6,000 to the Nationals, 5,000 to the Shooters. What do you think that says about the National Party brand?
Well, I think that the National Party, as well as the Greens, have come out of this by-election in a bad way. For a start, the National Party brand, with all this confusion, and there was no doubt the Nationals were urging their people to put Labor second in the Eden-Monaro preferences. No doubt about that at all. But I think what's happened here, just as the Labor Party has lost conservative right-wing supporters to the Shooters and Fishers, so has the National Party. And this has a lot of ramifications for the National Party in the upcoming the next federal and state elections. They were under pressure at the state election the last time round from Shooters and Fishers. Just like the Labor Party, they're losing people, workers, blue-collar workers who are going to popular, right-wing, conservative minor parties and individuals. They're moving away from the Nationals and they're moving away from the Labor Party. They're going to the coalition, away from Labor and, of course, the Greens, who tried to make this into an environmental and climate change election, have crashed and burned.
Just a very quick comment, if I can, Dennis. In relation to Victoria, a lot of anger in regional Victoria, I have to say, that they are now bearing the brunt of the restrictions that Melbourne has caused, if I can say Melbourne's caused them. Do you think Gladys Berejiklian had any other option but to shut down that border?
I don't think so. I think that her experience of the Ruby Princess disaster, which came before the Melbourne outbreak, demonstrated that she couldn't afford another foul-up and that she had to concentrate. And the rule clearly here is that Victoria has to be isolated, disastrous as it is. And we all know that it started in Melbourne with a change of attitude in Melbourne, a sense of complacency and an inefficient control of those vital quarantine sectors. The other states have no choice but to close down Victoria. I know here in Eden-Monaro, which borders Victoria, there is a great feeling of fear and uncertainty about Victorians coming into the area.
Dennis Shanahan, thank you very much as always.
Thank you, Peter.